Mayday. Written and adapted for audio by ButterflyCoffee and Joey the Judge. The summer sun bore down hard on Newton Abbot. Everything was bright, clear for miles around, and sweltering hot. Families were taking day trips to the seaside at Torquay or Dawlish, and special events were being held around the town to commemorate the season. This meant that the traffic increased, so all the engines were put under a great deal of pressure to keep to time, the mainline engines especially. One evening, Duchess, Lizzie and Julie were talking quietly amongst themselves as the other engines slept. Lizzie was complaining again. "Scorching bloody heat," she grumbled. "Shut up and go to sleep," chuckled Julie. "It's cooler now, isn't it?" "Yes, but I have to feel cooler before I can get off to sleep, and right now I don't." Lizzie spoke as if Julie was either stupid or hadn't heard her. "I want to sleep, but by the time I finally do, I bet it will be morning again, and another baking hot one. I look at half the passenger trains that go whizzing past, and they make me want to hide in the shed." "Anyone would think you didn't want to work." "I didn't say that, did I, Julie? Besides, I'd rather hide in the shed to avoid the heat." Julie rolled her eyes and looked to Duchess. "How are you finding passenger runs then?" Duchess sighed heavily. "Tiresome, to be frank with you. I love the summer weather and the lovely trips to the seaside or wherever, but when you're rushing about like this, you just don't have any time to appreciate it. It can make one feel awfully hot and bothered." Julie understood. "Be thankful you don't do freight duties. This weather makes me so delirious I often think I can't pull something I can easily manage, or can't make that distance, or this, that and the other. I only hope it doesn't get hotter or I'll start seeing those, what do you call them? Margarines?" "Mirages," said Duchess. "And I think it will. You can never be too careful." Duchess was right. The next morning was heating up quickly by the time she was steamed up and ready for her first train. The 2P moseyed into the platform, throwing a sympathetic smile at 4760, who went about her work trying her best not to complain. On the other hand, though, "Dear Brunel, why is it so hot?" Louise always complained. The auto tank cried out like a damsel in distress. "I simply cannot bear it. It's insufferable. It ought to be a crime for the weather to be this hot. I could boil my lovely paintwork, my beautiful green." "Simmer down, Louise," called Duchess as she pulled alongside. "There is simply no need for a scene." "I don't know how you do it," Louise gasped. "I must know, Duchess. How can an engine survive in baking weather like this? How do they do it?" "Shut up!" hollered Lizzie as she pulled away with a heavy freight. Duchess reined in a chuckle on Louise's part before speaking. "Because we must, Louise. Complaining about one situation will only make them feel worse. If you must complain, then do so quietly." Louise made a noise. "Well, I and flounced away. Duchess was simmering nicely while the guard was talking to the driver and fireman. After a few minutes, the crew turned back. They didn't sound best pleased. "Trying to bloody compensate," the driver mumbled. "We'll be all right," replied the fireman doubtfully. Duchess asked what the matter was, but the answer she got made her quite uneasy. It was common for summer traffic to increase, as it was a holiday and tourist season, so the railway had to adapt. One method of doing so was to loan extra engines to perform duties, which is what had happened with 4760. Another, less favourable option was to add extra coaches to established trains to accommodate more passengers. It made timekeeping harder and used more coal and water, but no extra trains were needed. "And where are we heading to this morning?" "Bath," said the driver. "Then up and off to Birmingham. Someone will take over from there." "Goodness me, that's a trick," Duchess thought to herself. She'd done the trip many times before and wasn't deterred, but she did wonder how hard it would be with the extra coaches. The guard blew the whistle at last, and Duchess strained against the coupling, wheels struggling for grip as she barked. A small bump from the back and 2 quick toots made her realise 4760 was there to help push. So Duchess pulled harder and whistled loudly as the train departed. Apart from a few minor delays and the baking temperatures, getting to Bath was no trouble for the 2P. She arrived with not much time in the schedule to spare, looking forward to as much of a rest as she could afford, plus a long drink. But if there was going to be any day where Sod's Law was being applied in full swing, it was today. Duchess was taken straight to the water tower, only to find it was out of order, and by the time she was turned around and came back to the platform, it was time to go. Her driver was exasperated at the fuss. "We'll have to stop at the next station," he grumbled. "We can only hope for that," Duchess said. They got to the next big station by the skin of their teeth, but when Duchess had had her tender filled and was back on the train, they were horribly late, and the passengers were starting to complain. Engine and crew now knew they had a very tough job on their hands. Time had to be made up as much as possible. So armed with nothing but grim determination, the train set off. Duchess found she was going well as she made her way along. She certainly wasn't flying, but it was a good pace nonetheless. She hoped this would last her to Newcastle. Or was it Birmingham? She was becoming a little muddled. How hot was it now? She didn't realise she was beginning to puff and pant a little harder than usual. Clouds of smoke and steam towered from her funnel, yet Duchess didn't seem to be going any faster. Her driver and fireman noticed the issue and stopped her at the next signal box. They checked her all over and found the problem out. "You're overdoing it a bit, old girl," said Duchess's driver. "Carry on like this and your tubes will be completely blocked." "We can still make it to Birmingham though, can't we, driver?" "I dare say so, but for the love of everything, slow down." Duchess was grim as her crew made their way back to the cab. This journey had suffered a good number of mishaps and delays, and now she needed to slow down for the sake of her own tubing. If the train was any later, goodness knows what would be said and done. Passengers would complain, Mr. Turner wouldn't hear the end of it, and as for her... No, I can't afford to think of that. Duchess was now resolute. She was going to make it to Birmingham or burst. She had to. She wanted to. With this plan in mind, she set off, filled with steely determination. Time to show some true LMS grit. The 2P really did give it her all that baking summer's day. She swore her driver tried to apply the brakes multiple times to make her slow down, but she ignored every warning. The train thundered along the line as best it could. Duchess couldn't get a proper grip or catch her breath on the gradients, but she forged on. These passengers must absolutely get to Birmingham. She was tiring more and more with every yard travelled, but she kept going. The old engine went on and on until the inevitable happened. Just 5 miles outside Birmingham, Duchess ground to a halt and could go no further. "Now you've done it, lass," grumbled the driver as he sent the fireman for help. Duchess groaned. She really did feel like she could make it, and she was so close to her destination. But she couldn't manage. She just couldn't manage. The poor engine sat in the searing heat until a mogul came to rescue her. He didn't say a word as he pulled into Birmingham and the passengers disembarked, hurrying away. No doubt to file a complaint, Duchess thought to herself. She was very disappointed as she was taken away. What would be said of her? Was she brave or foolish? What kind of impression had she made by being late and breaking down when she almost finished her journey? Duchess was quickly mended and sent back to Newton Abbot. The temperature had dropped a little, but it was a small solace. Her spirits picked up a little on the clear run home, but soon dropped as the station loomed into view. Here we go, Duchess mumbled to herself. The hour of reckoning. She pulled into the platform and stood waiting. She didn't have to wait for long, as she saw Mr. Turner stride towards her. Mr. Turner, sir, my deepest apologies for the run. It was just abysmal of me to even think. Mr. Turner held up his hand. Duchess was surprised to see him smile. I heard of the whole endeavour, old mare, he chuckled. There was a warmth to his voice. It was very gallant of you to continue to carry on, despite your condition. I'm proud of you, immensely so. But, sir, said Duchess, I didn't make it to Birmingham. I was warned to slow down, yet I went against my driver's wishes for the sake of the passengers. I was foolish to make a mistake that a young engine would do. True, Duchess, conceded Mr. Turner. But you chose to be resilient and make the best of a bad situation. I admire that in an engine, especially when it would have been so easy to give up. Did you know I received numerous letters from passengers on that train? Would you like to know what they said? I suppose so, sir, answered Duchess. They did say that they were horribly late, and the temperatures were stuffy. Duchess felt herself wincing. But they largely congratulated you for being brave and deciding to attempt to get them to their destination. Some were even flattered you thought of them in place of yourself. What about that? The 2P was very proud of herself. What about that indeed, sir? Thank you very much for telling me. I almost feel flattered. You're quite special, Duchess, old girl, said Mr. Turner kindly. Now get back to work and take good care of yourself. Goodbye, Mr. Turner, sir, and thank you once again. Duchess is wise enough to not let such praise go to her head. After all, every engine's special in their own right. But whenever she feels a little blue, the LMS locomotive remembers the Shedmaster's words and how happy they made her feel. No one is above making mistakes, and no one is above going to great lengths to amend their mistakes. Duchess herself has not been involved in an incident since this, but she uses this particular one to remind herself that even if you make a mistake and feel awful for it, you can still try to make things better. And that is what makes you admirable.